All right, we're going to start our last section here of the mitosis and the cell cycle notes. We're still on learning target 2. The students will be able to model the stages of mitosis, excuse me, and explain why mitosis is important to multicellular organisms and cell differentiation. And what we're going to focus on this last time is more on cell regulation. What factors kind of control the cell cycle? And so some of the things we'll be looking at is stating factors that regulate mitosis in the cell cycle. Excuse me, I think I'm having a sneezing fit here, so I apologize. Relate cell division and cancer. Explain what we mean by cell differentiation, and then differentiate between types of stem cells. So lots of topics that will be covering here. Excuse me. So when we talk about regulation of the cell cycle, the cell cycle can be regulated by external factors as well as internal factors. External factors could include things like contact inhibition. Normally, once a cell touches another cell, it stops dividing. So if you have a cell here and it divides, pretty soon it divides and it's coming into contact with other cells, then those cells that are they're in contact with won't excuse me, divide anymore because they're touching another one. So that kind of helps control the rate of cell division. Other things like growth factors are proteins that can actually stimulate cell division. So growth factors are very active when individuals are growing, when they're younger. And then hormones also stimulate the growth of certain cell types, specifically human growth hormone. That's going to help stimulate the growth of certain cells. Internal factors also regulate cell division. So we have various excuse me, enzymes called kinases and cyclins that help regulate the cell cycle. And these are kind of play a role at some of the different checkpoints as we work our way around the cell cycle. Another term associated with regulation of the cell cycle is apoptosis. Apoptosis is programmed cell death. And why is this important? Well, it helps shape our body and helps get rid of damaged cells. So as you were growing inside your mom and developing, all of us at one time had webbed fingers like this. So we had tissue between our fingers. What apoptosis allowed to happen is all this space now. So apoptosis killed off the cells in between our fingers, and that's what allows spacing. You may have heard of some people who have a little bit of webbing between their toes. Excuse me, between their toes, and that's because apoptosis didn't finish occurring at that point. It also helps, if you have sunburn, a sunburn area on your back, the reason you start peeling off is that apoptosis is causing all those affected cells, those damaged cells, to just basically die and slough off when you have that peeling occurring after a sunburn. So cancer is uncontrolled cell division, okay? Cancer cells don't respond normally to contact inhibition, so they just keep dividing and dividing and dividing, and what happens then is they start piling up on each other and causing these clumps called a tumor. And tumors can be divided into two kinds: benign, which are non-cancerous. Those remain kind of clustered and usually stay in one spot, and they can be removed, usually if they cut it out or things like that. Malignant is the cancerous tumor. They move to other areas of the body. We say that they metastasize, and they can form more tumors in other areas of the body. So that's the dangerous one that we have to look out for, is the malignant tumors. So metastasis is the spread of cancer cells from a tumor to a new area. All right, and that's what we don't like to have happen. Once cancers get to be that way, then it's sometimes tough to control them. And so it's easier if we can catch it right when it's at the very, very earliest stages, while it's still clumped in one area. Then a lot of times we can use, maybe we can cut it out and remove it through surgery, and then use chemotherapy or radiation and those types of things to help control it as well. So here you can see a benign tumor. It's just kind of staying, see how these kind of piled up on one another? Contact inhibition didn't affect it, all right? And so they just pile up. But what happens with a malignant cancer cell is it keeps invading and growing and invading, and pretty soon it enters the bloodstream and maybe moves to a different location in the body, or maybe it enters the your lymph system, which is a series of vessels as well that kind of help transport. They could transport cancer cells that way as well to other parts of your body. Another term you need to be familiar with is cell differentiation. This is when unspecialized cells develop into their mature forms, right? What causes that to happen is that different genes are expressed. Remember, all of your cells have the same set of chromosomes. All of your body cells have the same set of the 46 chromosomes. It's just that what makes your different cells, like anything from a skin cell to a bone cell to your intestinal cells, different genes are being turned on or being turned off, so that you have different cells being, different traits being expressed and different cells being made. So a cell's location will determine how it will differentiate into a more specialized, mature form. And that process is cell differentiation. Well, how does this happen? Well, we have stem cells, and stem cells have the ability to divide and renew themselves. They can remain undifferentiated in form for a long time, or they can differentiate and develop into a variety of specialized cell types. So when egg and sperm united, and you were a zygote at that point, that zygote divides through mitosis, the cell cycle, to form two cells. Those two cells divide to form 4, those form 8, and so on. And basically, you are a ball of stem cells, and those stem cells can keep dividing and dividing and dividing to form more stem cells, or they can divide and form a stem cell, and then maybe the other one starts to specialize. Certain genes get turned on or turned off to cause that cell to specialize into its mature form. So as you are that ball of cells, those cells on the very inner part develop into some of your inner cell body parts, like your intestines, your internal organs. Those cells that make up the middle of that, when you're a ball of cells, they're going to start to differentiate and become some of those structures that will become the middle part of your body, such as your bones and so on. And then the outer layer of cells on the outer part of you, when you're a ball of cells, some of those are going to start differentiating and forming some of those outer features, such as your skin and muscle cells. So stem cells can be divided into different groupings here. A fertilized egg, basically, that as it starts dividing will become that's a totipotent, okay? That means it's going to give rise to all cells, and that's what helps form a new organism. Pluripotent are the embryonic stem cells, okay? They can give rise to almost any type of cell. So again, here's what you are when you start dividing. You're like this ball of cells, and then you have all these cells that keep dividing, and that's what helps differentiate and form all these different body parts, okay? And then as you become older, you still can produce stem cells. You can still produce adult stem cells, but they will only give rise to cells that are closely related. So various blood cells, for example, stem cells will give rise to red blood cells, white blood cells, your platelets, and so on. So they're doing a lot of research on what can we do with some of these stem cells in terms of helping us be able to repair or perhaps form new organs. So adult stem cells are very hard to isolate and grow, but if you could use them to help grow new tissues such as skin or organs such as a kidney or something like that, it could help prevent transplant rejection. Remember, anytime somebody receives a transplant, all those marker proteins on the surface need to be the same. Well, if you were the one producing it from your own stem cells, your body wouldn't reject it because it wouldn't recognize it as being foreign. Embryonic stem cells are often used, but these raise ethical issues because where they get those stem cells from would be from leftover embryos that people maybe were going to use if they were going to do in vitro fertilization, and they maybe harvested and fertilized some embryos and they're maybe in storage, and they decide, oh, we're going to donate those to science so that they can do research on them or use them for stem cell research. So sometimes that can be kind of raise some ethical issues. But the nice thing about them is that they are pluripotent and they can be grown indefinitely in culture. Pluripotent again means that they can be used to differentiate into almost every type of cell in the body. So they have a lot of promise for uses in science and medicine and so on. So some of the things that they look for as far as treatments is maybe treating things like leukemia and lymphoma, perhaps to replace damaged organs. And so some of the research that you guys are going to be doing for your writing your paragraph this time around is going to be, you're going to get a chance to watch some videos and then decide if you want to do some research on stem cells or cancer or telomeres. So just a little practice here. Let's see if we can do a little bit of matching here. So apoptosis, remember that was programmed cell death. Our body purposely kills off some cells to help shape our body. Cell differentiation. Let's see. When unspecialized cells develop into the mature form. Cancer. That's uncontrolled cell division. Malignant means that's the bad kind. That's cancerous tumors that can move to different areas of the body. Stem cells. These are cells that have the ability to divide, renew, and become any kind of cell. And then benign tumors. Tumors that remain in one place and are not cancerous. And metastasis is the spread of cancer cells to different parts of the body. And so those are some new terms. So these all deal with various things that kind of control cell division, regulating them. And that kind of covers all of our kind of mitosis in the cell